ball out.
Disco ball? What do you got a disco ball out for?
You got a disco ball out?
It's the man cave.
Because the man cave is hot.
Oh, you know what? I do have something to show you guys for Collection Corner. Scruffy will appreciate this.
Well, that's good because we're live, so I guess we should probably get the show started.
We're live.
And Scruffy's not singing yet?
Nope, not yet.
You almost got that past me.
All right, should we get going, guys?
Yeah, right.
And now, on with the show.
Time for bladder check. 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 Wait. Screw it. I'm holding it.
Yeah.
Intriguing.
Podcasting, the final audio frontier. These are the legends of Brown Squadron.
Our computer is picking up a strange signal. Here, sir, you better take a look at it.
The ongoing mission? To explore the Star Wars universe and other nerd culture topics. To seek new content and new cantinas, bars, and lounges. To boldly annoy Scruffy by making too many bad jokes. Welcome to the Hyperspace Heroes Podcast.
All right, and welcome to Hyperspace Heroes, episode 104, or 129 on the Spotchka scale. This is Brown Leader signing in. All wings report in.
Brown 2 signing in.
Brown 4 signing in.
All right, and tonight for episode 104, we have got a special DB's Blockbuster episode, so I've got to play this.
Set that hyperdrive to plaid. It's time for another episode of DB's Blockbuster.
It's been a while since we played that, so
it is. And let's talk about what was it? Turkish Star Wars.
Bite your tongue. We're not talking about that tonight.
We are. We're not. Maybe not tonight. But we are talking about this.
No, we are not talking.
Oh yes,
about
we are.
That's the 4-hour episode next week.
Only 4?
No, I don't.
We're gonna have to condense it, Scruff. We're gonna have to condense it.
So tonight, we are going to take a trip through time. We are going to go back to 1985, maybe a little earlier than that, because we have a special guest on the show with us tonight. 1955, 1985. 1985 when we were all kids sitting in the theater, and the second movie of a trilogy dropped. And I know there was a portion of that movie that just blew my mind. And we have a special guest on tonight that was part of that experience, part of Back to the Future 2. And for those that have a fondness or I don't know what I was going to say. I completely lost track now. But anyway, so Back to the Future 2. That's what we're going to be kind of focusing on tonight. But with our guest, actor, producer, Jeffrey Weissman. We're going to have him on tonight, and we're going to be talking a little bit about his career. He was also in Pale Rider. He was in, a ton of stuff. If you look up his IMDb, some of our favorite 80s TV shows, including the Twilight Zone movie, Scarecrow and Mrs. King.
How many out there know who that is?
I know, right? I had such a crush on her growing up. I'll admit. So
I got to look this up.
Mrs. King, man. Oh yeah, I'll tell you. As a kid, right on, right there. But anyway, we've got Jeffrey Weissman on tonight. We're going to be bringing him on in just a second, and we're going to be talking about we're going to go back in time and talk about a lot of stuff that's going on. And guys, anything before we bring Jeffrey on?
The 80s were cool.
Oh, the 80s rocked. And I remember Mrs. King. All right.
See, Cherry, welcome to the show. All right, you guys want to bring him on?
Bring him on.
Bring him on.
All right, here we go.
on! Bring them on!
Yeah.
Jeffrey.
See my many faces there, and
Yeah.
I love the
Bring 'em
collage.
on! Bring them on!
Bring them on.
There, oh, look at that.
Oh, yes.
Welcome,
Those
Jeffrey.
are awesome.
How are you, sir?
I can't see a thing in these things.
Well, that's okay because we've got faces for radio, so you're not missing anything.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. But they are epically cool.
Right on. Right.
Yeah,
on. Well,
they were a giveaway at Pizza Hut when Back to the Future 2 came out, this is the 35th anniversary of the release of Part 2.
right on.
How is that even possible?
Yeah, that just does not compute. Yeah,
we're all getting that way.
We're all getting old now.
Yeah, Jeffrey, it was actually your post on Twitter or X that caught my attention when you posted about that a while back in terms of the
my naked
35th
body?
anniversary. Oh yeah, well the upside down version. So
I always get attention that way. People turn it off. My eyes.
So 35th anniversary. Also, you were in Pale Rider. You were in a lot of the shows of the 80s that we grew up on, right? Including, I know Scruffy's going to ask some things about Twilight Zone.
Oh yeah.
And but yeah, why don't you start off and kind of tell us a little bit about one of the things that I like.
All right, I'm starting.
All right. One of the things that I always like to ask about is how did you get into acting? How did you get into this line of work?
Just lucky, I guess.
All right.
That's a good answer.
I wanted to act since I can remember. My folks didn't want me to go into show business, but I was growing up in Los Angeles. I was surrounded by actors. I had schoolmates who were acting already, and I thought, gosh, Ron Howard could do it. I can do it. I remember it was a fourth grade. I went to school and lived across the street from Anissa Jones from Family Affair, Buffy. Lisa Pearson from My World and Welcome to It. I knew. I had friends who were working in the industry, and I was terribly. My parents were like, "You're gonna do your schoolwork." So I just did shows, in school. Basically, I was relegated to junior high and high school, and community theater, and here I am. I think ninth grade. Oops, that's not it. What are you guys seeing?
Oh, I'll bring it on.
Oh, okay. Oh, you can see that?
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Which one are you seeing?
Looks like probably ninth grade.
Okay. Yeah, ninth grade. I was playing Charles Condamine in Blithe Spirit, and I was a big ham. It was. I wanted to act so much. I got myself into trouble. And it took a few years to into this. Thing. Are we all right?
Yeah, you're buffering a little bit. Looks like maybe your connection's running a little slow or something.
I'm up in the mountains, so it might be bad. But nonetheless, when I got out of high school, I started getting my foot in the door, just getting on major studio sets, working on films like FM, with the late great Martin Mull, The Rose with Bette Midler. Got brainwashed by Alice Cooper and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It was so funny. One morning arriving on set, about 7:30 in the morning, I was like 18 years old. My parents couldn't tell me what to do now. I'm going to do it. And I smelled pot. I followed my nose to where the pot smell was coming from. It was Barry Gibb, the Bee Gees. You're smoking pot at 7:30 in the morning? He goes, sure. Would you like so? Oh, sure. Of course I do. I'm 18. I want. there's tobacco in this. And he goes, well, that's how we enjoy it. You know, it's like, oh boy. But I was the first to congratulate Robin and him and Barry, because Robin came over and said, hey, our new album just made #1 on Billboard. You know, it was an exciting time.
Oh, that's awesome.
But ultimately, it wasn't really rewarding doing background and bit parts and stuff. And I had some nice advice from a casting director to get good training on my resumes so I'd be taken seriously. So I hitchhiked to San Francisco and set my sights on training. And I eventually got in there. And in about 1980, I fell into an opportunity to screen test for the lead in a major motion picture. Reduced my pre so see if you can share this one. Can you see that?
I'm going to bring it up. Yep.
Bring it up.
Oh, yes.
Oh, very cool.
So I had big hair when I was 20, and Martin Brest was the original director and brought me in off an open call to screen test with Ali Sheedy for the lead in War Games for the role of David.
Oh, wow.
And so that was very exciting for me. I was pursued by an agent who Martin had said I was his favorite for that role. And that film kept going through trouble. You know, he tried to get John Lennon in the film, and he passed away. You know, and Warren Oates was the main star attached when I came on, and then he passed away. Film went into turnaround. But, you know, my screen test kept getting pushed. And then finally, on a date that we were all available, I don't know if you can show this and see it, but you can see my screen test call sheet. I'm with some really great talent. We're all being tested. There's Eric Stoltz and John Stockwell, Brian Backer, Dana Carvey, of course, with Ali Sheedy.
Oh, wow.
And I kept,
That's
during my test, I was like, why isn't Ali me? It's not looking through me. Of course. Many years later, I saw Eric and I said, were you and Ali an item in 1981 or 82? He said, oh, yeah, we were living together. I was like, aha. She was playing against me. But none of us got it. You know, as we know, Matthew Broderick got it. But I had a hot agent pursue me and have me move back to LA. And I started working eventually. About 3 months later, I got cast. I got called in to audition for George Miller, wonderful George Miller, who we all know from his most recent, what's it called? Not Fury Road. That was the one before it. What's this most recent Mad Max movie called? Precious? No. Anyway, here's George directing Larry Cedar in the creature outfit and John Lithgow. It's the remake of The Nightmare at 30,000 Feet.
Yeah.
And I just got along with George well. He was such a gem of a director to work with. He said, the part isn't really fleshed out. If you feel like there's some business or some lines, let's try it in rehearsal. And so I came up with a few lines and some bits. My newlywed wife and I fighting over the pillow, thinking we're going to crash. And I remember I was supposed to have lunch with John Lithgow at the commissary, and John got called back as we were walking to the commissary, so they could shoot that one shot. I know you're a fan of Twilight Zone. There's one frame of John's eyes popping out of his head. If you get the film, freeze it just as after he opens the shade on the window and the creature's right there. There's one frame of his eyes blowing up out of his head. And
no way.
That was my lunch with John.
That's awesome.
And I remember the next day, I had my acting coach coming to visit the set, and that night, my girlfriend at the time's cat had kittens, and at about 3 a.m, I woke up with a terrible pain in my arm. I said, it was a kitten hanging on my arm. I was like, get up, and went back to sleep. And the next day, Alan Davio, the late great cinematographer from E.T. and all, he wanted to get the angle from my seat across from John. So he put the camera on my seat, and I sat in the back with the extras, and I had this lump in my elbow start. And Jack Burrell, Milton Berle's brother, was a professional extra. He was back there. He says, "What do you got?" He was telling me stories about his brother being kidnapped by Al Capone. It was really fascinating. Anyway, I said, "I don't know. It's a lump in my elbow." He says, "That's a cyst. You just rub that, it'll go away." So I rubbed it, and it became 2. And then the next day I had a lump in my elbow and these red lines going. I didn't feel so well. So I went to see, instead of having lunch again with John Lithgow, I went to the at Warner Bros. She said, "Those red lines going up your arm, that was blood poisoning." So I literally had cat scratch fever.
Oh my goodness.
And then the next day I was like, "John, can we have lunch today?" And he goes, "I can't today, Jeffrey. I've got no voice." I was like, so there went my lunch with John. But he kept showing up. He kept at restaurants, in between television and film work. I waited, I cooked, I valet parked, and was flipping burgers at one place, and John showed up. It was kids. I was like, "John!" And my coworkers were like, "Wow, you know him." And then I opened the Hard Rock Cafe in LA, and and he says, "Jeffrey, you turn up in the most unusual places." And all my coworkers were like, "You know him?" We're like this. I'm not sure who's who, but on Twilight Zone movie, I really enjoyed the ensemble of it all. Let me share a couple pictures, okay?
Yeah.
So wait for it. Okay. So J.D. Johnston, who played the co-pilot, later worked on Pale Rider with him. And Donna Dixon. Donna and I got along like immediately. She was so sweet and beautiful. And I think she had just broken up with her boyfriend that she was dating from Kiss.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them.
And she Brown leader.
Yeah.
Can you see the picture of Donna?
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Yes.
So I was having some, thoughts because my girlfriend and I on the outs, and I just go ask her out. But I think she met Aykroyd at the cast party, and it was a very rewarding scene working on Twilight Zone movie because of the ensemble and the fun. There's a shot of me. I don't know if you want to see from behind the scenes on the fuselage of the set while I have cat scratch fever. And I've been very fortunate to be in some really great ensembles. Twilight Zone really had some fantastic talent in it, from Abby Lane to the crew. it was one of the first times that Garrett Brown, who invented the Steadicam, worked. And Garrett, who's 6'2" or something, he had this Steadicam that weighed 65 pounds, and he's running up and down the aisles, shooting us, panicking, we're going to crash, and it was just fascinating. It was really fun. I'm loving finding out about the technique, the technical side of things, and I'll get to some of that story even more as we progress on our journey through my career.
Right on. Very cool. Very cool. Scruff, did you have any other questions about the Twilight Zone?
No, I think I pretty much covered it. I mean, I always loved the movie itself, but that was my favorite scene or episode from it, and just that what it was like to be on that set and work with John Lithgow and the director and stuff would have been just awesome.
John was excited because George, it was the first time that he was able to, I guess they figured out how to tap the lens of the camera and put it onto a monitor so he could see what the camera could see. So he was in heaven for that. And then John was really tickled because most films, the directors are saying, bring it in smaller. You're too big, John, because he's a big man and he was weaned on stage. But George was doing the opposite. No, bigger, bigger, bigger. That's why he lost his voice. He's frenetic, and he loved it.
Yeah, his scenes were very over the top in that, which was just seemed different for what his usual personality was on anything else he ever played.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun for him.
That was awesome.
So for I was Louis Malle film called Crackers. I did a scene with Sean Penn, and I went to high school with his brother. He and his brothers. Mike Penn was in my class, and this was a few years. Sean was behind me, and Chris was behind him. It was kind of ironic. But very cool to work with both Laszlo Kovacs and Sven Nykvist, the cinematographers. I only had this bit part, which most of it was cut, but they shot a little bit of me in LA, and really great to meet Donald Sutherland and party a little with him and Sean and Jack. See, what did I do next? I think Johnny Dangerously.
Ooh.
With Michael Keaton. I had just once again kind of a bit part of the vendor selling the I Heart Johnny T-shirts with Dom DeLuise as the Pope. Can you see that?
Yeah, let me bring it. Sorry. Here we go. There we go. Yeah.
Yes. That's awesome.
Many years later, well, I should back up a little bit because when I was 14, I went and saw Blazing Saddles. My parents didn't approve, but they let me go see it, and I loved it. And then I heard that Mel was shooting something in my neighborhood, so I walked home instead of taking the bus, and I started seeing men and women in Victorian evening wear in the Santa Monica Promenade. And there was one gentleman whose mustache was flapping. I said, "Excuse me, sir, your mustache." "Oh, is it? Oh, thank you. Who are you?" he said. I said, "Well, I'm an actor." And he goes, "Really? What did you do? What have you done?" And so I listed the shows I had done in high school. He said, "Really? Would you like to meet Mel?" I said, "Brooks, yes. Come with me." So we went on to the set at the Mayfair Music Hall where they were shooting the Puttin' on the Ritz number. And the first person I saw was Marty Feldman, who was in street clothes. He wasn't shooting that day, but he was wearing a man bag. And I now carry a man bag, so kind of full circle. Anyway, Roy Wallach, this extra said, "Mel, you got to meet this kid. He's done this show, and Mel was like, "I got no time for kids." That was my first time meeting Mel. I met him a year or two later when I was doing a show in Hollywood. I just blatantly sat at his table. I couldn't think of anything funny to say, and I excused myself unceremoniously. It was very awkward. But then, because I became friends with Dom DeLuise on Johnny Dangerously, Dom, in between television and film work, I started playing characters at Universal Studios on the tour, playing Laurel and Hardy and Charlie Chaplin and Groucho Marx. And Dom would request my Laurel and Hardy team to warm up his audience for the new Candid Camera show that he was doing. And so, over the years, we meet and read, and one night at the movie house, Dom, at a break, he was there with Mel, his best friend, Anne Bancroft, Mel's late wife. And he said, "Mel, Jeffrey, you got to meet this boy, and he plays Stefano. Do you think better?" And we met before. The Marx Brothers team auditioned for Men in Tights for you. He said, "Oh yeah, I remember you guys." The Marx Brothers at the actor playing Don Corleone, the Godfather, too much money. I realized at that moment I was asking for too much, so I always started joking. Took our money. Anyway, there's Laurel and Hardy. I don't know if you see that picture.
There we go.
Oh, yes.
Oh, very fun.
That's awesome.
And then I have to do these one by one, so it's kind of slow going. But here's Groucho.
Oh wow!
Oh, very cool.
And then let's see what I got next. The nibble Charlie Chaplin.
Very cool.
Universal. I got called asking Glover gun. There's other things I did in like you mentioned, I Mr. King. I had the episode I was in, filming was considered the second highest rated of the first season. The first highest rated, of course, was the one where Scarecrow finally kisses Mrs. King.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a picture of when the trunk of the car had been kidnapped, and because of the technical problems, I got stuffed into the trunk of that car 15 times. It was
no.
That is really one I hadn't been at fan base until just last year. It happened to be the 40th anniversary, and I got invited to their fan con for Scarecrow and Mrs. King, and there were several hundred fans there, and I got mobbed. It was very cool.
That's cool.
We're like, wow, it's Scotty. Bruce Boxleitner came over and said, "Who's the guy with the big hair?" I was wondering, who's the guy with the big hair? I'm Scotty.
That's awesome.
And let's see, what else did I do in the interim there? This might be out of. Oops. Let me cancel that. And this might be out of order, but we mentioned. This one's in the 90s. I got to be Screech's guru, High Geek.
Oh yes,
that's cool.
On Saved by the Bell.
And this is where I want to jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, DB.
This is where you and I have a connection, Mr. Weissman, because
look out.
Oh yeah.
About a decade ago, I got to work with Dustin Diamond before his troubles and before he passed away. And I have a picture very similar to that with my arm around him, but it's not on this computer, or I'd upload it. But I thought, well, we've kind of got 6 degrees of Jeffrey Weissman going on here. We both worked with the same guy. You know, hey, I got to use whatever I got. I live in Northern Michigan, all right?
Yes, I'm sure. And just wondering which one is you and which one is Dustin. Anyway, I did another film with Dustin called Our Feature Presentation. I didn't have any scenes with him, but we're both in the same film. I mean, he was a nice kid when I worked with him, and I was very sad to hear about, apparently his dad taking advantage of him and his Lisa Jones. Where the parents kind of abuse the kid, work, make us money. And then, kept up short on his mortgage, and that's why he's to wrestling. And I don't know. God rest him. He was a nice kid. A moment of silence for Dustin.
All right.
Yeah. He was very, very nice the night I worked with him.
So in 84, well, I should wait. In 83, I did a film at the American Film Institute with Dan O'Herlihy, who had been nominated for an Academy Award for the late. This young actor, Glover. And then in 84, I got cast part of Tail Rider's script and offered him the role of Eddie Conway. Well, Chris threw it back and said, I don't want a good guy, I want a bad guy. So Clint moved Chris into the bad guy of LaHood Jr. And the actor playing Eddie got moved, or Teddy got moved into Eddie. And so Teddy became available. And I got in there and auditioned for Teddy. I knew I had to cry on cue. So I didn't leave anything to chance. I'd studied a lot of different methods of acting. And I had my sense memory, my emotional recall. I had a lock of my grandmother's hair in my pocket, who I adored. I did my fantasy charging Meisner, imagining my own father's death, all these different things. And when I got put on tape for Clint, since he was already on location in Idaho, the producer Fritz put me on tape. I had no problem crying. It was in the script. One day I was on the way to shoot 6 weeks with Clint. It was a great ensemble cast. You get your dead body back to Clint. It was a real thrill to play cowboy with Clint and come up with all these things. I had my character some sort of as a not a half wit, but sort of a quarter wit. He wore both a belt and suspenders. His feet would go out from under him when he get excited. He and brother go and get candy at the Mercantile. I fish in shallow water with just a hook and no bait. Anyway, none of that really translated much to the screen, but it was really cool to be a part of this Western, which is considered a classic. A lot of people love that Western, and it was the highest grossing Western of the 80s, let alone of 85. And I remember, you guys are going to like this. I remember I wanted that summer of '85 when it came out to see what the competition was, and the competition was this new film with Chris Lloyd and Michael J. Fox called Back to the Future. And I went to see it. I was already a Christopher Lloyd fan from Taxi and Buckaroo Banzai, and I liked Mike Fox, and Leah. I was cast in a film with Leah that my part was written out called All the Right Moves. But nonetheless, when Crispin came on the screen, I was like, I know that guy. He's knocking it out of the park. He was incredible. I even called him when I got home to congratulate him. But I was like, man, this is our competition. This is some stiff competition. This is a good film. But I was so excited to be a part of a Clint Eastwood film that I had my girlfriend take my picture. I climbed up on the Sunset top of the building to have my picture taken on the billboard.
Nice.
That is awesome.
That's very cool.
It's epic.
That's cool. Okay, so Jeffrey, before we get into really start to dive into the Back to the Future stuff, the buffering has been pretty, sporadic. So why don't we have you reboot real quick? We'll have you log off, reboot, and jump back in.
Okay.
And then hopefully we'll get a better connection because I know we don't want to miss anything on the Back to the Future stuff.
Oh, you've been missing stuff. Darn.
A little bit here and there, yeah. So let's do that real quick, and then we'll
rebooting.
Okay. We'll see you in a second. All right, guys. Wow, some amazing stuff right there, gotta say, right?
Yeah, those are some awesome stories.
Yeah. Oh no.
You guys can't hear me because I'm muted.
Don't do that. Don't do that, DB.
Okay. Oh, there he is.
No, he has some amazing stories.
Yeah. All right. Welcome back, Jeffrey.
Hello.
All right.
Hello.
Did you miss me?
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
very much.
We did. Very much.
I didn't get your postcard.
I'm not that fast of a typer. Right.
So I did some other work there in the those late 80s, early 90s. Let's see, the Man Show. In the Man Show, I was the sensitive asshole _1 for the Assaholics Anonymous episode.
That's awesome.
I did For the Boys with Bette Midler and James Caan and Arliss Howard. That was fun. So the way the Back to the Future 2 came about, very interesting. I was working at Universal playing Stan Laurel and Groucho Marx and Charlie Chaplin. And this lookalike agent and asked if I knew who Crispin Glover was. I'm sure I worked with him at A. Do you think the same? Probably what if I knew Future 2 sequel had been bandied about in the trades and in the Hollywood Reporter and the Variety, and of course he was not at liberty to say. And I said, get me in there. And I met with the assistant directors, and then they talked with Robert Zemeckis, and I was sent then to casting. And I was told originally that they were looking for a photo double stand-in. I was like, well, I need the work. I need to get my medical coverage through SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, because my wife was having our second child. I even called Crispin. I say a good word for me, Crispin, if you remember me, And he'd never called back. And I got fitted for prosthetic makeup and a body cast for special effects, and did a screen test and for Robert Zemeckis and Dean Cundey. And I remember Zemeckis asking Dean Cundey, what do you think, Dean? And Dean said, I think we got Crispin without the trouble. I was like, what does that mean? Now, in my mind, I figured they needed George in multiple places at the same time. And it was my makeup artist of all people who said, Crispin's out, you're going to be George. I was like, how is that possible? And I called Crispin. I said, what's going on? And he never called me back until part 3 came out. And I was told, and it was even in the trades, that Crispin had a scheduling conflict, and would not be returning to reprise his role of George. I was like, that's odd. But then slowly but surely, I've learned more and more. While we were shooting, the pizza that comes out in 4 seconds out of the hydrometer in 2015, I'm in the body cast to do a spin for that. Lorraine finally says, when she takes the pizza out, rotate your axis, George. It's bad for digestion to eat upside down. And I go, okay. And I do my best Crispin tribute with the golf swing going 4. It's in the bonus material. So look up pizza in the bonus material. And I'm in this body cast to do that bit, which didn't stay in the film, but it's in the bonus. And Spielberg came up to me and said, so Crispin, I see you got your $1 million after all. I was like, okay, I know how much I'm saving you guys now. So it was awkward. And they tried to keep me a secret. They pulled the plug on any publicity I did or wanted to do. It was kind of odd. And then, of course, Crispin called me a year later when part 3 came out, and said, it wasn't fair. They put my life mask makeups on you. And I was like, well, you gave them permission, didn't you? And he said, no, I didn't. And he didn't get paid for that either. And I was like, no, that's just not right. And so there was a moral high ground that needed to be taken. I shared my stories and my photos with him, and he used those and whatever else. He deposed everyone at Universal. And they saw that they weren't going to win. So they settled before going to court for about $750,000. So it was odd. I was like a cog in a wheel that was a machine that was going to break if they didn't have someone filling in for George. So as if you want to see here, I've got I'm presenting again.
Presenting.
The 3 different makeups I wore from part 2 and part 3. So in the middle, age 77, hanging upside down, and then age 17 for knocking Biff out again and kissing Lorraine on the dance floor, and then age 47 for part 3. That cameo I did. They're kind of at the end. So it was. For me, it was really wonderful to be on this set, to be a part of this once again ensemble cast. But the cast would see me in this makeup based on Crispin's life mask, and they go, "Oh man, what is that?" And it was kind of uncomfortable. I think, it took me a while to kind of fight for being Jeffrey, because people would refer to me as Crispin. It's like, Zemeckis, instead of saying action, he would go Crispin, action, and I had to get him in his face and say, I'm Jeffrey, I'm not Crispin. You could say George. So then he's for the Enchantment Under the Sea dance action, he started saying Leah instead of Crispin. Glad I got to kiss Leah, and there's so many jealous people. Anyway, I felt sorry for him.
I knew that was coming.
So there, as I said, it came out that I helped Crispin get his settlement, and the rug was kind of pulled out from under me because Universal, I had proof that they had blacked me on a couple of shows, and I was like, oh. But covered and kept acting, and in recent years I've continued working both live and on stage and in film, and the fans have discovered me, which was nice. In 2008, we did the very first Future Act reunion. There were about 26 of us at the Hollywood show. Here's a shot from a film I did called the Traveler, which was a proof of concept. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
It was really fun. I played a nefarious guy who had these power implants that he could manipulate time, and this beautiful scene where I appear in 9 different places around my ex-protege beating the crap out of him. That was a lot of fun science fiction to make. In recent years, I've put together. I have I play Larry Fine from the Three Stooges, and I have a Three Stooges team that, and then even more recent. I don't know if you can see this one. I played.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Mark Twain. Very cool.
Yeah. It's fun doing living history when I can. But being discovered by the fans, I think, is the coolest. I think the only old George McFly Part 2 cosplay I've ever seen is this little family from Denmark.
Oh, that's awesome.
Where the 1-year-old kid was upside down for 10 seconds for those of you out there saying that child's being abused. Anyway, Tomas, just an uber fan who he does his Seamus McFly lookalike stuff. He's fantastic. Anyway, he sent me this, and I was just tickled that that's the only old George McFly Back to the Future Part 2 cosplay I've ever seen. Still waiting for another one.
That's fun.
We'll have to work on that for you.
Thanks.
Right on.
Bring it.
So,
I'm also, through fan cons, I've become friends with a lot of the Star Wars fans. At London Film and Comic Con, I got to know Jeremy Bullock and his wife. And
cool.
I'm sorry that we've lost him, but I remember WonderCon, both Mark Hamill and Carrie were guests, and I remember they were kind of behind me, and I heard Carrie start screaming. I was like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" She arrived a little later than Mark. Got there, he was charging $90 for an autograph, and she had been charging in advertising $75 for an autograph, and she was pissed. Anyway, that got settled. Anyway, continue being buddies with Don Bees, my friend Don Bees, who worked for ILM for many years and handled the droids for the middle 3 films, and then has played Darth Vader himself, I think, as well as Nelson. Mike Quinn, Nyen Yub, he's a good friend, and Stephen Constantino, who was the Gamorrean. Anyway, us trilogies have to stick together.
Absolutely.
I'm thrilled that the fans have embraced me. I still get lots of trolls. Oh, you're the fake George, and really nasty. I have had very nasty things, even threats. It's awful from the trolls. But I'm like, you know what? Crispin wouldn't do it. I filled in. A lot of people didn't know. He got his money. He now criticizes my performance. He could have done it. It's like, ooh, you can't win. But it's fantastic. I've done Zooms with, example, the Japanese fans, where there's 28 Japanese Back to the Future fans in all the windows, and every one of them is dressed as a different Back to the Future character.
Oh, that's fun.
Or I just sent a gift package to the Back to the Future Argentinian fan club, who also do Team Fox fundraisers, and they're the sweetest people in the world. And I'm embraced by the folk in so many different countries. I just love it. And when I worked in the theme parks at Universal and then at Queen Mary and Six Flags, I've learned how to greet in about 15 different languages. So I can now greet my fans when they come up, and speak Turkish to me. Yeah, merhaba. I heard you talking about Turkish earlier, so I thought I'd throw it.
No, that
some of the fabricate stuff, like my OrthoLev controller. Ian Robinson not only made a replica of my OrthoLev controller, but also of George's watch that you never see on. I think you may see it on camera early, but this is a replica of George's watch, and Edward Ayeth, who designed the hydrometer, that makes the pizza and all that. He sent me a copy of the original design of the OrthoLev.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, how cool.
That is very cool.
I love this stuff. And then just this last weekend, we did a fundraiser for Mike's Charity for Team Fox up where they shot part 3 at Jamestown Railtown 1897, where the train they hijack is, and then Red Hills, where the Back to the Future 3 set was, which burned down. Fans got to tour that, and one of the Uber fans, Kevin Bosch, he had bought this at a fan con, and now I have the George McFly reading his poetry from the summer of '55. A very rare record.
Nice.
I bet you Crispin doesn't even have it. I know he might have.
Nope, I bet she doesn't.
I got to get Crispin to sign this.
Absolutely.
And then, I'm skipping to your share time. I had another fan 3D print a George Part 2 2015 George action figure.
Oh, that's very cool.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Brad Fife. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, and sorry about the trolls, but unfortunately, it comes with some of the territory, right, of being in the limelight. But you know what? I'll be honest. It wasn't until we made contact. It wasn't until I saw your post that I was like, wait a minute, Jeffrey, George, and I had to do my research. And I've spent the last 35 years not realizing, and I mean that's how well your performance was on me, that I didn't know the difference. And so thank you for doing what you did in the films, because it kept the trilogy going. It really did. And the Back to the Future trilogy is one of my all-time favorite trilogies. I mean, it's such a well done piece of cinema, and you were a part of that. So, F the haters, forget them. And you were part of that. So thank you.
Thank you. That was a nice compliment. And that was what I was hired to do, is to kind of try to keep it seamless. They didn't know if they had Crispin or not. I got my Paradox Part 2 and 3 were one script called Paradox. And I got it out just a month or so ago and was reading specifically that kitchen scene. And the 2015, they had like 5 or 6 different versions of it, where in one, Marty is hanging upside down in the OrthoLev. They didn't even know if they were going to have a George. So it was, I think I came in like the 11th hour. So my script had all sorts of rewrites. I remember while I was on set, Zemeckis would be throwing George's lines to Mike or Leah. And I was like, hello, I'm an actor. I could probably do some of those lines. And so I had to reel them back in. And I even added a couple, when George comes to the front door and makes his first entrance there, I wonder if I have a shot I can show you. Nah, that's the wrong one. But nonetheless, when George first comes in at the front door and there's the rotating for pizza. That one's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Because you don't see that much. But with Mike playing Marlene, my grandmother, they put her in these orange hot pants and stuffed them to give her a little butt. And my head was butt level. We blocked it, and she opened the door, and I said, well, how's Granddad's little pumpkin? Because she had a pumpkin butt, I thought. It's awful because I did a fan con last year or 2 years ago in the north of Italy, and they played that scene for me at StarCon in Bellaria, and they translated it different. In the Italian, it's like, how's Granddad's little dove? And I go, no, that's not the joke. It's got to be pumpkin. Lost in translation.
That is awesome. I did not know that.
That's funny. That's
awesome.
Great. So how many takes did you have to do roughly upside down and did you end up getting head rushes after a while?
Well, over the course of 2 weeks, I was upside down. It was not a pretty thing. My poor back. In fact, they didn't want to get me down in between takes because it was very time consuming. And so the guys from ILM built a board on a ladder. And I brought the photo up of that. If you want to see it. So they would say, Jeffrey, do a sit-up.
Oh, okay.
It would take, and they'd slide this board on the ladder under me. I'd lie back on it, and they said, "You're all right." I'm all right, and then they'd all leave because they didn't like I'm on wires hanging upside down, and they don't, getting me up and getting me down was pretty hard. And over the course of 2 weeks, I think probably 6 full days hanging upside down. Now, remember, we only had Mike Fox on weekends and nights because he was shooting the last season of Family Ties during the day. And I think he had 3 weeks or so to go of that last season, which overlapped with the first scenes we were doing, which happened to be the 2015 scenes. And I was like, Mike, when do you sleep? He says, in the limo in between the studios.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
So on the weekends, especially, I had a 19-hour day. I had a 21-hour day. I had a 26-hour-long day on my time card.
Oh.
The overtime was wonderful, but it was really hard.
Yeah.
They would do things. It's called a forced call if you have less than 8 hours in between your shifts. So we'd have forced calls to be, say, ready to work by 9 a.m. I'd have to be, as well as Leah, in the makeup chair by 4 a.m. because it took 4 hours to apply the makeup.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was, sometimes the wonderful makeup artists got it down to 3.5 hours.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Brutal.
Yeah. Gosh, let's see if I can share this with you. Well, here's a shot that I think you'll like. This is a shot of Mike Mills, who was the foreman on Beetlejuice. Just give me a touch up after lunch. They inside your mouth a cat. It had to practice with that. Again. Are we back?
Yeah, you
There we go.
There we go. You kind of buffered out during that whole part.
Okay, I was just saying that the makeup folk, and we worked with the top artists in the world, Marvin Westmore and as I mentioned, Mike Mills and Nancy Vasta and Zoltan and his wife and just really exceptional makeup folk, and they didn't want us to eat because the sides of our mouths would crack or they'd have to do touch-ups.
No wonder you're so skinny in those scenes as George.
Yeah, they didn't give me much padding.
Yeah. Yeah, being in that, them doing that little ladder trick reminds me of the story from Flash Gordon with the Hawk people, because those wings were all one pieces and they wouldn't bend and they wouldn't let them take them off between takes. So they had to build special perches for them to sit on, the Hawk people to sit on, just to take breaks between takes. And the lengths they will go to. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Sure, it was part of the job. It was grueling working those long hours, but at the same time, it was thrilling. I loved being, once again, part of an ensemble set. When I wasn't shooting the Enchantment Under the Sea interior, or the fight with, during the Enchantment Under the Sea at the Hollywood United Methodist Church on Franklin and was it La Brea, Highland? I'd hang out with Billy Zane in his trailer and listen to music. I was a DJ. I remember I used to trade music with River Phoenix, and I DJ'd at clubs on the Sunset Strip and elsewhere in Hollywood. And I'd have these mixtapes and I'd bring them in, and I was really impressed. Billy knew the lyrics of every song in my mixes. I thought that was incredible. And he confided in me. He says, I think Leah was in love with Crispin. I was like, that explains a lot. But Crispin and she did a lot of things together. They painted a painting together. He brought it to the set and demanded that it be part of the McFly home. And Zemeckis was like, no. And Crispin stormed off. It's like, very
interesting.
Art. It's art. I was hoping I could find a video. I actually have a video to show you guys.
Okay.
Would that buffer out if I did?
Let's try it. We'll
give it a shot.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot for sure.
I'm going to bring it up. And so a buddy of mine was on the documentary making of Back to the Future 2. And I've got to bring my screen back up to do the share. He gave me this footage because I was purposely cut out of it because they wanted to keep me a secret. And I was like, okay, you guys. Let's see. No, I got to do it this way. Okay. I'm hopefully going to make this work. Bear with me just one more. So I have my Mr. T.
Yeah, no worries.
I am Mr. Tech. It's not going to show me that. Show me the video. Cancel that. Chrome tab. No, it's not showing it to me. I think maybe, I'm going to have to cancel it and just try this a different way. Just a moment.
Okay, yes, no worries.
Absolutely.
It went off the screen, and I don't know how to bring it back. I don't know how.
Help me.
Please help me. Yeah, I did it. I did one of those things where it goes off the screen and never to be found again. Does anyone know a hack how to bring something back?
No, I am not computer savvy.
Okay. Make a ping and recent. Here's a recent. There it is. All right. And now I'll take it off full screen and it should stay on my screen. There we did. Whew! All right, you guys, you ready for this?
Yes,
absolutely.
Okay. It says I can play a video file, but I don't know how to do it.
Here we go.
All right, now I'll go full screen. You guys ready?
Yep.
Ready.
Just a couple minutes. Is it playing? Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's Sonny Berman of the famous Berman Brothers gluing me in with Nancy Basta, Mike Mills behind, and Kenny Myers working on Leah in the next chair. And so, I'd be glued into the various prosthetics for the first couple hours. Then we'd get maybe a half an hour break to have a breakfast burrito, and then come back and be painted and have the wig applied. So yeah, basically about 4 hours before being called on set every day.
Wow.
That is absolutely grueling. That's that had to be tough.
I though thrilled at being in this creative environment, and my makeup artist finally introduced me to Chris Lloyd, and we become friends over the years. And I look more like Freddy Krueger here, I think.
Yes, you do.
Become friends with Leah and Mike and everyone. It's been really like a family that gets together every once in a while.
And for those listening to the episode, that's some of the audio from the video that Jeffrey's sharing with us right now.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And there you have it.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So I got to ask, how many times did you get to kiss Leah?
I was waiting for somebody to bring that up.
I over and over and over. No. When I was surprised when she slipped her tongue into my mouth, I was just like,
Oh.
no.
Well, that just completed my childhood. So
I felt sorry for her because she had to kiss this mask. It was odd.
Yeah.
But she was such a team player and a consummate pro. She's just a consummate pro, and over the years we've done a lot of charity fundraiser gigs. There's never a dull moment. She's very sexy and fun, and as are most of the cast members are very fun. I have a good time whenever we do a reunion, and I'm very good friends with Harry Waters Jr., who played Marvin Berry. Don Fullilove and Mark McClure played Dave McFly, and Don Fullilove, who played Mayor Goldie Wilson, and we formed a band called Mr. Fusion. And played
Nice.
songs from the films that we took on the Back to the Future cruise to raise money for Mike's charity. And it was kind of a dream for these 50 plus passengers who came on that cruise to have their own Enchantment Under the Sea dance with members of the trilogy cast playing the band to their dancing. It was a lot of fun. We hope to bring that back.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
What instrument do you play?
Guitar.
Oh, very cool.
I found it on YouTube already.
and I sing. I'm not a great singer, but I do vaudeville songs at least, and some rock and roll.
Right.
Awesome.
Well, that's very cool. Yeah, definitely going to be looking that up tonight. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Scruffy, share us that link.
Yep. So I want to ask kind of a behind the scenes question, which is you've used the term earlier, life mask. So is that basically just like the prosthetic that they pulled over your whole face to make it look like somebody else? Is that what that is?
Basically, it's usually when an actor is brought in to get heavy makeup based on their face, they'll take an alginate mold of your face, so that then they can put your face on a mannequin head and then create on top of that instead of creating on top of you. And then they'll fabricate the latex pieces or whatever they're going to make it out of, and that you'll see. I guess they'll take the alginate mold and then pour plaster, because you'll see sometimes at hobby shops or collectors have Bela Lugosi or famous actors' life masks or molds of their faces.
Oh, okay.
Another thing that I totally loved was watching this new and improved camera. When we were shooting Back to the Future Part 2, I was a big fan of Roger Rabbit, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I said to Zemeckis, are you going to do a sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit? And he says, I don't know. And I don't think so. I was like, why? Because it was too complicated mixing live action with cartoon. He goes, no, actually, we've got more complicated scenes on this film than I ever had on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And this camera, this VistaGlide, run by the Tondro program, which was one of the first times a computer helped run the camera and the movements of the camera, they didn't even know if this was going to work. It actually spliced the film inside the camera so Mike could play multiple roles. As you can see, I'm getting cinched in for my spin for the pizza. My costume was put on over the body cast that I'm being cinched into. You see Leah, she wouldn't like it that I'm showing her in her undergarment there, but next to Leah is Kevin, Michael's photo double, and then Bobby on the left, Michael's stand-in, and then our AD Dave and Bob Z around the table here. So once we set the blocking, and in this case it was Marty Jr. passing the iced tea to Marlene by way of Marty Sr. We had to strictly keep to the marks on the table because the camera could only splice and make it look right if we did everything very precisely. No CGI in these days, guys. Maybe some things with the flying cars and such, but it was labor intensive to create it or to erase the wires hanging me up. And then while we were shooting this in particular, one night while we were off, we had an earthquake. And I remember Zemeckis thinking that we were going to have to come back and start afresh. The camera shook overnight, but they figured out how to get around it. But this camera was the magic maker for doing these special effects that he needed to do, where, Marty from part 1 knocks Marty from part 2 out, coming out the door at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. I'm in the background on that. Or with Biff talking to his older self, all those scenes where one actor is playing multiple roles was because of this camera, and it had only been used, I think, once before Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh wow! So kind of.
Though I know there's other films that may have used the one with Lily Tomlin and Bette Midler. Anyway, there you have it. I'm sticking by that.
That's very cool.
That's awesome. That was one of my questions. Those scenes where that same actors in those two, in playing those two different roles, how that was achieved.
And in my mind, when I came on the project in the 11th hour, I thought that's what they needed me as George for, to have Crispin George in multiple places at the same time, but it turned out not to be the case. In fact, Crispin was slated to play Seamus McFly in part 3. But because he didn't come back, they put Michael in the role as if he had enough to do.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember Bob Gale coming to me and saying, for all the torture you're taking that was meant for Crispin, hanging upside down. By the way, there's an urban legend that they hung George upside down to obscure that it was a different actor. George was always going to be hung upside down because on the first film, Crispin often would undershoot or overshoot his camera marks on the ground. There's marks to stay in focus or in frame. And he would miss those marks. And the Bobs wrote it, let's have him in this device that we can control his movements. And that way he'll always be on his mark and in frame. So But Bob Gale came to me and said, for hanging upside down and all the makeup and everything, let's find a role for you, maybe in part 3 without the makeup. You can use your own face and onward and upward with your career. I said, thank you. That never happened.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, not cool.
Great.
well, that's too bad.
Thank you,
Not
Bob Gale.
cool.
Anyway, he's on top of the world now. I was with him, Christopher Lloyd, at a DeLorean owners convention in Ohio, probably about 12, 14 years ago. And this little high school, the seniors had already graduated, but they got back together to show us their drama coach had written a Back to the Future musical. And I have a photo where I'm sitting in between Chris and Bob Gale watching this Back to the Future musical, and you can see the light go off over Bob Gale's head of like, yes, a musical. And which now he has. I saw it in London a year or so ago. It was really a lot of fun. And he has a road tour of it now, and it's, I think it's still on Broadway. It's a lot of fun. If you get a chance, do see it. I recommend
absolutely. For sure.
Absolutely. We're a road trip.
No kidding. So you've got ever since you talked about the camera, it's just swirling around in my head. And so is it where, okay, so obviously previously with doubles, you would have to shoot the scene with them in, one half of the scene, and then you shoot the scene again with them in the other half of the scene, and then the editors basically throw that together, right? I forget what they call that.
Well, the camera actually was splicing the film inside of it.
Right. And so was that where so you would film like the first half of the scene and then have the body double in the second set in the same position so that you could hand them the cup okay. All right.
Exactly.
That makes sense now.
Yeah. And that's what I was trying to describe with that photo. I but you described it very well. That's
yeah. Well, I always second guess myself if I understand something, so I always have to ask for clarification. No, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense now. Yeah, no, that's very cool. Definitely going to share that with my son. So he went to school for film, so he'll find that very interesting. So
nowadays, with CGI, they can bring back dead actors if their estates say okay. AI is a scary thing. What was it just yesterday, the Hollywood Reporter mentioned that Lionsgate is working with Runway to scan their entire Lionsgate library to create new product, I guess, from actors that they don't have to pay anymore. It's something, I don't know how this is going to work out. And it's a brave new world now. How actors are going to protect themselves. It's always been a struggle, and hopefully our union will say, listen, just negotiate with the actors or their estates if they're gone.
Yeah, and I could see another strike coming too. Whereas they try to push that AI more into that kind of the realm. Because you guys do need to be protected. I mean, it's an art, and it's not. I don't know. I'm so.
I have my St. Christopher on.
Right on. Guys, did you have other questions for Jeffrey?
Go ahead, DB.
You're muted, DB.
Droid bait. Slow down. I'm reading your lips.
Well, then answer the question. No, actually.
43.
Yes.
I appreciate the answer. Thank you, sir. No. So many of the things I was going to ask, we've covered. I mean, I'm just so amazed, especially when we're talking about that film splicing, because it is so flawless in Back to the Future 2. I mean, it just looks like these are 5 different people around the table or whatever. Did you have to hang upside down for all of that, or were you off camera? I mean, because you appear in parts here and there in different background pieces. You know, when
I'm
Marlene and
yeah. No, I pretty much, if you see any part of me upside down off camera, or just a little bit, that's me upside down. You know.
that had to be
Yeah.
brutal.
I wasn't AI'd in or anything. By the way, it's just recently been announced for the 35th anniversary of the release of Back to the Future Part 2. It's going to be out in about 900 theaters across the U.S.
Oh,
for Back to the Future Days, October 19th and the 21st, I believe.
Excellent. We
got
Back
Gentlemen.
to the Future. Back to the Future. Look up your local theater where it's going to be playing.
Definitely.
Yeah, I have to say that, you know, it's hard to find a perfect film, let alone a perfect trilogy. And I can think of 3 trilogies that I think are perfect: the original Star Wars trilogy, the original Indiana Jones trilogy, and Back to the Future trilogy. They're just flawless in their concept and their continuity. I mean, and you talked about the haters earlier, and that frustrates me because you were hired to do a job and you did it fantastic. It's not your fault the other actor was not brought back. You did a great job and just made the continuity between those films. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
yeah, you did an awesome job with that. It wasn't until probably 5, 8, 10 years later when I think it was a copy of Fangora or something that I found that had some of that information in there. But yeah, never realized it. A lot of people, I don't think, realized that was a different actor, that you were playing George instead of Crispin.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
So Back to the Future 2 was the first movie that for me blew my mind in the fact that when the telling the whole story of Marty going back to 1955 a second time, and the way they used and filmed new shots with you know, the car scene, the enchantment under the sea dance, the you know, all the additional scenes that they shot, and just the concept of that, because I was just a kid back then, and it blew my mind. And I don't think I've seen another show Acolyte that has compared when they've tried to do the same. Right, exactly. So this shot right here, you know, the whole Biff scene again, it blew my mind, and it set I compare any other show or film that tries to do the same kind of thing where they go back to the same scenes and show it from a different angle. My standard is Back to the Future 2. And I compare everything to that because it was done so, like DB said, so flawlessly that it's just for me, it's the gold standard of.
There are those obsessed fans out there that go in and compare. You can find those on YouTube where they've compared and they find the slight things out of place or the wrong hand being used. When we weren't on camera, we were at the video playback looking at the first version, trying to match. We got to match this, you know, the twisted, so on and so forth. We worked very hard, and it was just lovely working with Tom Wilson. You know, he's once again a consummate pro, just like Leah. And you know, there was a lot of love in the camaraderie in the process and the first film, that story rang so true. You know, the first film, if you think about it, is George's story, and the second film is Marty's story, and the third one is Doc's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've never looked at it that way before, but yeah.
Right on.
I love in some of the books, the big Back to the Future encyclopedia kind of that came out. There's notes from casting on the possibilities of what it could have been. We all know that Eric Stoltz was originally thrown at production because Mike Fox wasn't allowed out of his contract at Family Ties. In fact, they went and gave the script and asked the producer first before asking Mike Fox. Producer said, Meredith Baxter Birney is going to have a baby and we can't let him go. So they never gave Mike Fox the offer of the script. And Sid Sheinberg, I think, kind of threw Eric Stoltz down their throat because coming off of Mask, he was a hot item. And it wasn't working. He was too method, and it wasn't going to be a comedy anymore. Well, look at some of the other casting that possibilities they had. I know Ralph Macchio turned down the part of Marty McFly. They were looking at John Lithgow for Doc, and I remember that year John was taking off a year to be with the kids. They looked at Dudley Moore and Bill Cosby and Jeff Goldblum. It would have been a completely different film if you had Owen and George. What's his name? Pirates of the Caribbean. I got all these file drawers open. Who's our lead in
Johnny Depp?
Johnny Depp. Yes.
Johnny Depp auditioned to be George McFly. You see just all these different ideas that casting has, and they circle or cross out these notes that are in this book. It's fascinating. That Christopher Lloyd, when he got the script, he threw it in the garbage. He had enough of Hollywood for a while. He 5 years of Taxi or whatever he did, and he wanted to do real theater. He was weaned on theater. He loved live theater. So he got into a show with Colleen Dewhurst. I'm not sure if it was on or off Broadway, but he was slated to do that show. And Colleen Dewhurst got sick, and his show got pushed a month and then a second month. And he said to his girlfriend, "My God, what are we going to do for money? I need to work." And she had pulled out the Back to the Future script out of the trash and said, "How about that?" And it was, "Oh, let's look at it." That's how close it was not going to be Chris Lloyd.
Wow. Crazy.
Jeff Goldblum and Eric Stoltz. Pluto Man from Mars. No, what was it? Spaceman from Pluto.
Spaceman from Pluto,
yes.
The original.
Right on. Right on. Well, Jeffrey, thank you. It's been an honor to have you on the show. Really love all the chit chat and
the stories.
The stories,
the details.
Right on. Right.
Well, it's been a treat for me. Thank you, guys. Aaron, Brown Leader, and Scotty and DB.
Right.
Hey,
go ahead, DB.
Can I just say that if these guys ever get sick of me and boot me off the show,
yeah,
you have full permission to take my spot and not have to wear any prosthetics. All right.
Oh, thank you.
As long as you keep that glorious hair, because I'm so jealous.
The pandemic, I was doing mostly Zooming things. I did a pandemic version of Waiting for Godot and doing a bunch of Shakespeare with international groups, Zooming. And I got to play Doc Brown in the Shakespearean version of Back to the Future. So I the hair grow out. And as you saw, when I was 20, I had long hair too. And I was like, I kind of like having long hair. In fact, I made it work just so I can show you guys something that I've got coming up. You said I could share what I have coming up.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep, that's where we were going to go next. So perfect segue.
Use the long hair, Jeffrey. I got asked to play Professor Moriarty in a new Sherlock story that'll be released this Christmas, and it's a fundraiser film. There's a Baker Street West is in Jackson, California. It's an immersive environment that's Victorian England that Sherlock Holmes stories are unfurled, and it's a center for Sherlock Holmes studies. And they had to move. They were evicted unceremoniously, and their new digs, they have to bring it up to code and so on and so forth. It's going to cost them over $500,000. So this film is a fundraiser film. I'm really happy to play Professor Moriarty in that. It was really thrilling. And then I just did a film with Billy Baldwin that is coming out. Gosh, I don't have. I've done that thing again where I've lost the screen. No, let me see if I can. Boy, oh boy, I can't seem to get my anything back here. Well, it's called No Address, and it's a fundraiser, awareness raiser for the homeless. Let's see if I can. Okay, I can at least do that much, and I can show. I have a scene with what's her name, Kristen Loca, the gal from Terminator 3, and Billy Baldwin there.
Christina Loken.
Yeah, yes, she and he were just wonderful to work with. I get his character arrested. Oh, no spoiler.
Spoiler.
So that film is called No Address, and that'll be coming out this fall. Another film where I play a very badly behaved patriarch of a family of very badly behaved siblings called Siblings, and that's in post-production. A very dark indie comedy, and I've got other projects coming down the pike. So when I can, I'll announce them on my newly launched website, jeffreyweissman.com.
Sure.
So if say you're wanting to give the Back to the Future fan and your family or friend autographed picture, you can look at my store on my website and pick out a picture or from Pale Rider or Saved by the Bell, whatever. I'll sign it and send it to you at a nominal price or a fair market value price. How's that?
Right
Awesome.
On. Right on.
Most excellent.
Oh, thanks for scrolling my website. There it
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to make sure we got that up there for you. Very cool. Do you have any other? So next month is the 35th anniversary. Do you have any appearances coming up related to that?
I hope so. I'm thinking that for Back to the Future Day, people often wait to the last minute. Are you available to come to this or that? There's several Back to the Future days now. There's the two big ones in October, the 19th and the 21st. Then there's November 9th, and then there's several. And I never know. Sometimes one of the stars like Leah will drop out of a con and they'll call me at the last minute. Can you fill in for Leah? Or I've been asked to fill in for Tom even. And, I never know. So I would just say, keep up to date on the events page at backtothefuture.com or on jeffreyweissman.com, my current news. And I've posted stories galore about all the movies we've been talking about, much more than we could ever get to here on your podcast.
Right on.
Awesome.
All right. Well, let's segue real quick into Collection Corner. I know we don't have a lot, so let's fly through that, and then we'll work on getting out of here for tonight. Scruff.
All right. So I got an amazing piece here. This was custom made by one of our biggest fans, I might add, my brother-in-law. He does amazing leather work. So this was all custom made leather. It's got Yoda on the side there. The helmet, the X-wing and stuff. So a big shout out to my brother-in-law for creating that for me. I absolutely love it. The guys are a little jealous on it.
I am totally jealous.
Super jealous. Right on.
And then the letter, he felt it was important to keep his favorite podcast, Rebel, hydrated while he was exploring the outermost areas of deep space. And he specifically let me know that he wished he could report this was made from the finest Tauntaun leather from Planet Hoth. But it is not. It's only made with. It's made with the earthbound bovine species.
That's funny. That's very funny.
Excellent.
But he has absolutely loved the 100th episode, and this was kind of inspired him to create this piece. So a big shout out to my brother-in-law Ron. Thank you so much. I absolutely love it.
That's pretty cool. Sweet.
Very, very cool. DB.
I'm on a spending moratorium as we're about to hit a con here in about 10 days. But I got to share something because we started off the show talking about disco balls, and we've talked about time travel. And Scruffy, you will appreciate this. I'm in the process of selling my parents' home. They're both gone now. But it was built in 1968 or 69. My grandparents were all into ceramics in those days. So my grandfather made these hanging lights for my parents' house, and I could not leave them with the house. I dismounted them from their chains. Check out this ceramic with marbles. This is actually a light that used to hang from the ceiling, which I'm going to put on a lighted turntable and put in the man cave. And Scruffy will be here every day to appreciate and enjoy this.
Yes,
so
I will.
It's not a purchase, but man, is that a sentimental item for me right there.
That's awesome.
I am glad you took them down. I was worried you were going to let those go with the house.
Nah, I left cheap paper shades up.
Excellent.
Right on. Anything else, DB?
Nope, that's all I'm going to share tonight.
All right. Jeffrey, could you show us that 3D printed action figure again?
Oh, sure.
And I'll bring this up while you're doing it. Yeah. Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, I have fans from time to time, send me their George artwork. As we did see before, Brad Fife made this 3D printed an old George action figure hanging upside down. Here's sort of a pop art piece. I had this 14-year-old kid in Australia do this drawing. I don't know if you can see that one.
Oh,
very cool.
Oh, yes, that's awesome.
I've also, the cosplayers. The cosplayers are off the hook. Just every character in Back to the Future is often represented, and one of my favorites was Griff's gang.
Oh, very cool.
Awesome. Really well done. The gentleman who 3D printed my action figure is Griff in this one, and Anis Den Fatale is Spike. And anyway, the dedication to the cosplay always flips me out, and I'd say just keep bringing them. I have T-shirts with me on it now, trading cards, not just the Topps bubblegum thing that came out. I love it, and I have when I go to fan cons, I'll bring the fan art slideshow, and I'll bring the cosplay slideshow, and then the cast reunions slideshow, and love to share that stuff. So if you have a fan con near you, request me. I come loaded with stuff to share.
Right on, and you can reach them at www.jeffreyweissman.com. So also you can get a hold of them on Instagram and Twitter or X, right? And I think on are you on Facebook as well?
Yeah, the personal page is full. They give you a silly 5,000 limit. I was up to 6,800 friends, and then woke up one morning and was down to 5,000. I was like, what happened? Oh no, you can't have more than 5,000. Sorry.
Right on. Yeah. So definitely.
Active to add. So but if you go to Jeffrey Weissman Actor, there's my fan page on Facebook. On Twitter, it's at JEF1F Weissman, WEISSMAN. On Instagram, it's at Jeffrey J. Weissman.
Very cool.
There you go. Whereas Jeffrey J. Weissman. Yeah.
All right. I've got a few quick things for my portion. So October, the first Saturday in October, one of us is going to get the privilege to sit in on an interview with Billy D. Williams at the convention we're going to be at. So we are going to be we ordered some shirts to be wearing that day to get on his good side during the interview for sure. We got our press passes from ICC. That's the con we're going to be at, guys, or viewers, in Nashville, first week of October. Nice. Great con. And then I wanted to do a plug real quick for Brown 59 Whiskers. He was just on the Katie Sackhoff. That's Paul's son, Hyung Lee. We had him on the show for our 100th episode. Great guy. And he was on the and I'm proud to say he was on our show before he was on Katie Sackhoff's show. But he was on the Katie Sackhoff podcast. She has a great podcast, and it was a great interview. He talked about some things that he talked about with us, like no merchandise, and he talked about some other things about coming up as an actor. Great interview. Definitely recommend you go listen to that. And then the last thing for me for Collection Corner is next Tuesday, which is, I should have had the date here. So the 24th, friends of the show, What Does Star Wars Mean to You, did an interview with me a couple months ago. And the episode that I did with them is dropping on Tuesday. So give them a listen. We definitely had a great time. It's quite the riot of an interview. So, all right, that's it for Collection Corner. Jeffrey, so one of the things that we do on our show is that everybody that comes on the show becomes an honorary member of Brown Squadron. And with that, you get a flight designation and a call sign. All of our call signs are Star Wars related. I try to find something that relates to the guest. And did you catch that, guys?
Oh, I caught it.
Yeah. So, and you'll be able to use this call sign. You're welcome back on the show anytime you want to come on, Jeffrey. You're always welcome. If you got new like when any of the new projects come out, any appearances you want to do, by all means, you're more than welcome to come on the show with us. You're part of the crew now, and so you will be known as Brown 61, and the call sign is Vaucher. And where that comes from is in Legends of Star Wars. There was a character named Kenan Vaucher, and he was a sort of time traveler in Star Wars Legends. And so he was a force-sensitive gambler that strayed too close in his ship to the Tias cluster and ended up accelerating in time 50 years into the future. And so we thought that was kind of relevant to the guest tonight, Vaucher. You might be on mute. Uh-oh.
What's Vaucher's full name?
It is Kenan, and I can show you.
Kenn. Oh,
there we go.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's on Wikipedia. But yeah, so when earlier when DB said that he's gonna, if he retires and you take his spot on the show, that will be your call sign. So
well, I think he said if we got sick of him and kicked him off.
Yeah, I didn't say I was going to retire.
Well, potato, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, welcome to the crew, Jeffrey. And like I said, yeah, honestly, you're welcome back anytime that you want to come on the show. We're more than happy to have you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Gentlemen, it was a pleasure. Thank you, and I'll see you in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. All right. So with that, I think, you can find everything. Hyperspace Heroes. You can find everything for us at all of our links at beacons.ai/Brown Squadron for all of our video links, our audio links, website, socials. We don't have a website, socials. We're on all the major socials, including Blue Sky now. I don't know why, but I was bored. I had 5 minutes. I hooked us up on Blue Sky. So Twitter, X, right. Twix, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. We're on Threads too. I've been trying to be more active on that.
MySpace,
which I found out.
MySpace.
I found out Spotchka is on Threads. That's where
okay.
That's where he's disappeared to. So Spotchka, we're looking for you. So, and you can also get a hold of us you can email us directly at brownsquadron@gmail.com. All right. I think with that, we're going to get out of here, guys. Again, thank to our guest, Jeffrey Weissman. It was a great evening. Learned a lot about, went back in time and learned a lot about that. We're definitely having him back on the show for sure.
Definitely.
And with that, I think we'll sign off for the night. So this is Brown Leader signing off for the crew, and you have been listening and watching Hyperspace Heroes. That's no moon.